Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session. Today is Thursday, August 6th, 2020. We appreciate your attendance. To begin with, I'll ask the board for entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0, and we are out of executive session. We'll start out with a roll call, so you sign in, please.
We got him.
What's wrong?
We got you, Chairman.
All right,
It's
and
just
you can
not-
see we're all here. Just a punching of the numbers. All right, first thing we have tonight is opening presentation, American Public Works Association Young Leader of the Year Award. Our county manager, David Headley, is going to come up and talk about that.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Good. I'm excited tonight to be able to present this opening presentation to you. This is for the Myron Calkins Young Leader of the Year Award. Now, this is the first time that Dawson County has received this award. This is a national award, and so we're very proud of the recipient tonight. A little background on that is that Myron Calkins served as the APWA, A-P-A-A, for Commissioner Gaines there, American Public Works Association, president in 1970 to 71, and was elected chapter president of both the Washington State and Kansas City Metro chapters. In addition to serving as national president, Calkins served as the president of the Public Works Historical Society, chaired the awards review committee, and served on the editorial advisory board of the APWA Reporter. He received the Presidential Leadership Award in 2007. The purpose of the award was to recognize and encourage young APWA members who have demonstrated an initial commitment to the profession and the association and show potential for future growth within the association. The award promotes the concept that length of career does not necessarily indicate leadership abilities or potential for service. The awards committee reviews the nominations and selects one of more award winners. The eligibility for that is that the candidates must have demonstrated an ability and eagerness to act at the chapter or branch level and or national by serving on committees as an officer, heading projects, participating in programs, or contributing in general to the well-being of the chapter. Mr. McKee has served Dawson County in various positions over the past 15 years. As GIS engineering technician, engineering field inspector, building inspector, planning director, and director of administration, David currently serves as the director of public works and as a SPLOS administrator. David has been a guest speaker at many annual and regional conferences discussing the asset management analytics here in Dawson County, most recently at the Southeastern Cement Conference, where he discussed full-depth reclamation case studies. He is also an active member of the Georgia chapter of the American Public Works Association. This month, he will complete the APWA certification as a certified public works official. Additionally, David served on the ACCG Rural Broadband Right-of-Way Regulation Committee. The group ultimately assisted in state legislation on broadband permitting requirements within local right-of-ways. David has led a team that implemented many internal programs to assist in analytical and statistical asset improvements. David partnered with Georgia Tech in 2017 to implement COPACES CC, which is a pavement evaluation system that can be completed in-house, which he has spoken to this board when rating road systems and the full-depth reclamation. Please join me in congratulating Mr. McKee in receiving this well-deserved award. We have a present.
real quick while they're sitting down, first of all, what an honor, and very humbled by this in general. I've heard a lot about over the years in the American Public Works Association at our annual conferences and seeing those things. Never would I see myself on that level. I will stand here today and accept this for my staff, for the county staff, because it's not just me. I am here representing an entire staff that helps. Yeah, somebody's got to help pull the strings, but honestly, I'm humbled to stand here today. Dave pulled a fast one over me. My family pulled one on me. I was just told to be here. So I really appreciate it, and genuinely thank you. And it's an honor to serve here in Dawson County. Look forward to continuing to move on. Thank you.
Chairman, Dave, you left too soon. I've seen him grow up. I was there at the office when he came in from college. He started with us in 2005. But customer service, he does it on both ends, sometimes 3 or 4 ends. We pull them from every direction, but I see David, it's to his employees and to the county employees, and also to the public, DOT. I mean, he's customer service to everybody, and we're glad to have him. Good job.
Thank you, David. Excellent job. I'd ask everyone to please stand for a brief invocation and pledge. If you would, bow your heads, please. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this yet another day. We thank you for the many blessings of life. Lord, we ask you for knowledge and wisdom to carry out the business of this great community. Anything that's accomplished, we'll give you the honor and glory. In Christ's name we do ask and pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Are there any announcements?
Dave's birthday.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on July 16th, 2020. Are there any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Nix.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. Those are approved 4-0. Next up, we have the minutes of the voting session held on July 16th, 2020. Are there any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And those are approved 4-0. Next up, we have the approval of the agenda. I have no changes to the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And the agenda is approved 4-0. No one signed up for public comment in this particular section.
No, sir.
We'll move on to public hearings. First up, we have the 2020 millage rate and property tax. This is the second of 3 hearings. The first hearing was held at 11 a.m. today. Second hearing is right now, and the third hearing will be held at 4 o'clock, August the 20th, 2020. Just a little bit of history in reference to the millage rate. Current millage rate is 8.0890. That was lowered to that last year by this board. There was approximately a $113,125,722 increase in value to the tax digest. That makes a 40% value of all the property, both residential, agricultural, commercial, light industrial, in the county at $1,618,756,510. And if the millage rate remained the same at the current 8.0890, that would mean a $915,559 increase in property tax. Now, the board will have options once they've heard from the citizens after the third public hearing. They can leave the millage rate as is. They could do a partial rollback, or they could do a full rollback. That'll be what will be voted on after the 20th. One of the things that I think is important for everybody to understand, because I've got comments on this over the past 3.5 years that I have been chairman, is that this board does the county millage rate. The Board of Education is responsible for the millage rate for the school system. A lot of people try to tie those two together and think this board controls what the school does. That is not the case. The school sets their own millage rate. So I wanted to make sure that we give that distinction. One of the other distinctions that I want to go over with you as citizens so you fully understand is that there are many different types of exemptions that a lot of our residents are that are available to our residents. We have 4 different age exemptions. These are also income-based. These were all voted on locally by the citizens of Dawson County and approved over the past several years. There's also a homestead exemption. That's a state-approved exemption. There's a conservation exemption, and that is a state-approved exemption. And there is a disability exemption, which is also state-approved, as well as a disabled veterans exemption, and that is a state-approved exemption as well. Just for your own knowledge, there are, in Dawson County alone, that comes to $260,989,642 worth of exemptions that citizens in this county are entitled to. And those are exemptions that no one can change. Those were voted on, and they are state law and local legislation as well. So those can't be changed without going back through the legislature. So those exemptions exist for those people who qualify for that. And so if you hear of someone who pays little or no tax, that's the reason why. They probably meet 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those exemptions. And just for your knowledge, there are over 400 parcels in this county that meet that where they pay 0 property tax. And those people are not doing anything wrong. They're not getting any advantage other than what is provided by law. So just wanted you to have...
Mr. Chairman, I might add,
Go ahead.
it is not, these are not automatic exemptions.
No, you have to apply for
them between January 1st and April 1st.
That's correct.
So it's not going to automatically come to you.
No, you got to go apply.
62 or 70, you've got to go in and apply.
And I'll give you an example of how you can get down to 0. If you are 70 years old and you have a 100% assessed value of $300,000, your 40% value is $120,000. The exemption at 70 is $120,000. So once you get to there and you have no more value in your property than that, you would pay nothing. So just a little bit about what we look at when, as a board, trying to figure out what the millage rate is going to be. Those exemptions went up about $30 million this year alone towards the tax digest. So we have to look at that as we try to determine what we want to set the millage rate. Because there's not anybody on this board who doesn't pay taxes, and not anybody on this board who wants to pay taxes. Just
Or
like
an
you.
increase in tax.
Or an increase in taxes. Well, I don't really even want to pay them, and I'm sure you don't either. Nobody wants to, but it is part of what we do. One other thing that I want to bring to your attention is as you look at what's been provided online in reference to the 5-year history, you'll see where the local option sales tax and things such as the insurance premium tax, those are rolled back against what you would have to pay if those did not exist. And you'll see that that would be like 13.4 mills if we didn't have local option sales tax and we didn't have the insurance premium tax, which allows the county to keep that millage rate as low as it is at the current moment. So like I said, the board will take a look at everything, look at the budget. I'll tell you this, we've told our citizens, our staff, through David and through talking to all of our elected officials, that we would, due to the COVID-19, that we'd be looking at keeping the budget flat or reduced. There are some one-time purchase items that were in the 2020 budget that won't show back up in the 2021 budget. And so, knowing that the times that we have already made that statement to all of our staff and to our elected officials, and they're going to be working with us on that. Now, I will tell you that I did also tell them that we still needed to know what they needed, so that if and when things turn around, we can take a look at those situations at a later date. Anything else you want to add on the board before we go to the public hearing? Something that I did this morning in our first public hearing, we are required legitimately to and responsibly to have 3 public hearings. They are legally spread out. One has to be during the day, one at night, and we're doing another one on the 20th. One of the things that I didn't know before I sat in the seat, and I think a lot of people don't understand, is what the whole process looks like. So I took some time, went down to the tax assessor's office, Elaine Garrett. Went to her office, went to our tax commissioner's office, gathered the data as far as a timeline and what the whole process looks like. I had seen some feedback and some questions from citizens on, it appears that we're trying to squeeze this thing into a couple days, and even some comments that we're being not truthful of the way the process works. So I just wanted to lay out the way the facts are and the way that the process works to begin with. Around about December of each year, the tax assessor is the first component of the process. The tax assessor is responsible for assessing your properties, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, mobile homes. So they go and physically assess the properties, and they have their own board. They do not answer to us. We have no input into their processes or any direction. If somebody came to me and said, I want my property taxes raised or lowered, I can't change that because they're their own entity and their own board. They do their work the first half of the year. In May, the board or the tax assessor takes all their data that they have. They have a meeting with their board, and they look at how everything has come out in the data, and they approve the data, and then they move into sending out the preliminary notices that we all get in the mail, which collectively we all hate. I don't like getting them myself. So they do that, and then as soon as they have that approved and by their board, they go into a 45-day appeals process. We all have the ability to appeal our preemptive number that they've sent out to us, and a lot of people take advantage of that. And so they go through that process, which is, again, 45 days. That takes us up to about the end of June. In June, first week or two of July, the tax assessor then takes that data and the appeals that have been processed through their office and through the Board of Appeals, and transmits that information over to our tax commissioner, which is Nicole Stewart. And what Nicole and her vendors and staff do is they take that data and they start applying the exemptions that the chairman was referring to, and vetting those out. And that is a process in itself that takes several weeks. So once that process is done, we're to the end of July. And into July, the next step is this process here. Before we got here today, we have to look back 2 weeks because we have to advertise legally this meeting and the other meetings for 2 weeks. So we're backing up. So we're pressed on time as already as I think you can get the opinion of. And so
we do our public hearing, or we do our public hearing announcements in the paper. We have our public hearings, this is the second one of 3. Again, we'll have another one on the 20th. And so we have a short time frame. This is one of the most important decisions that, in my opinion, that this board makes throughout the year. I'm being very transparent that it frustrates me to no end that we have such a short time frame, because it takes a lot of energy and effort and time to crunch the numbers that we have to crunch to look at to see what is our expenses and what is our revenue going to be in order to continue to deliver services that you've grown to know and want. And so that it's a big responsibility that we have, and we take it very seriously. But we have a short time frame that's not generated by us; it's generated by the functions around us. After we go through our process, our final board meeting is on August 20th, which is in 2 weeks. We then take that back to Tax Commissioner Nicole, and she has a meeting already scheduled with the state of Georgia to take that information down and actually certify the digest at the state. It has to be done before the end of, I think it's September 1st, end of August. So the time frame that we're dealing with is limited, and that has not been set by the county or by the commissioners. That's set by the processes in place. One thing that we have strived for, and Chairman Thurman and I have talked about this many times over the years, is how can we move the budget process back to allow more time for department heads to send in their information. You got other constraints where we have the finance department. We just, in the meeting before, the work session, had the wrap-up of our financial report. I wished a lot of you could have heard that, because we get glowing, excellent remarks on our financial status and our very low debt load, and we rank extremely high and get many awards that a lot of the people in the state don't get. So we do very good in our finance team. They're working through audits, so they immediately jump out of audits and start on budget processes. So all that to say, it's a lot of information. There's a timeline that's in place that is not set by the commission. There is no tomfoolery, or whatever the word is you want to use, that has been implemented by this board to maneuver this thing where it's a rush process. Because I can promise you, I spend, and every single one of these board members spends hours upon hours of going over line by line in the budget in order to make sure that we are looking and being the most efficient we can. 2 meetings ago, we passed, we had a vote to look at an efficiency study. And how can we work more efficiently, not only within our organization, but within other organizations, being the city and Etowah Water and Sewer. And so I want you to take away that it is something we take seriously. It's a process that is set in place beyond our control, but it is our goal always to be the most efficient and effective with our services and with your tax dollars and with our tax dollars that we possibly can be. That's all.
Comment from the board before I open up the hearing. All right. As all of you that are here are aware, we've been going through the COVID-19 since March. And so there are several people, or 3 that I have here, that have sent us their comments by email. And so I'll open up this hearing, and I'll begin by reading the comments of those 3 citizens, and then I will let any of you who wish to make a comment in reference to the millage rate and property tax after that. First one comes from Miss Lori Finch, and her comment is this: the rich keep trying to get richer. There is no good reason to raise the property taxes once again, especially in the RA zones. Dawson County is taking more and giving less. I've owned this property for over 30 years, have not made any improvements to my land, and yet you continue to raise taxes to pay for all the growth around Georgia 400, and the rural areas are not in the same category. It used to be the county would actually maintain the roadside drainage ditches and the rural county roads. It took me 5 years to get the county to come out and dig the drainage ditch that was severely backed up with water. Then they only did a small portion of it, not to mention the waste of time for a crew to come out and sparsely throw gravel in the potholes which come back after the next rain. You want more for less, services stop. And that is Miss Lori Finch's comment. Next up, we have comments from Mr. Joel Anderson. Hi, my name is Joel Anderson. I am reaching out to show my disappointment and disapproval as for the consideration to hike the county's land tax and also to try to dictate what the landowners can and can't do on their own land. This is nothing more than a political move toward helping big developers come in and buy up land that people cannot afford to pay the land tax anymore. Because of the higher taxes, sounds like backdoor deals to me, and I'm not the only one either that thinks that. People of Dawson County needs the land tax lowered or abolished, where we can have the extra money to buy food, clothing, tires for our vehicles, to be safe for our families and others on the road. Also, medications, etc., and also for the people that doesn't have kids in the school system anymore, or they have their children in a private school, or they are homeschooling. Why should they have to keep paying a high-priced land tax on land? Shouldn't that money go into their pockets to pay for the private school or homeschooling? There is nothing but socialism spreading the wealth of hardworking people into the pockets of the able bodies that don't work but can work. Instead, they have a free ride off of the hardworking taxpayer. Also, for the use of the land, anyone should be able to do what they want to do on their own land as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else or contaminate anyone's waterways. This is also a liberal ideology. We should be able to use the land that we pay for and that we pay taxes on for our benefit. Remember how you got voted into office. For the people, by the people, it's time for the good old boy system, backdoor deals to stop. God doesn't like it, and he will come down on those that are responsible. It's time for Dawson Countyans to drain its own swamp. Last but not least, I think it's a pretty crappy way to have hearings on a weekday at work hours where most people are out working. Your officials work for the voters of Dawson County. The hearings should be on days where the hard-working taxpayer is off. And that's the comment from Mr. Joel Anderson. The last online comment we received is from Dan Nobles. We citizens have a tough time with this recession and must live with what we get. It is past time for the county to tighten its belt and lower the millage rate. We have tremendous growth in the county that certainly brings in more money. All right, so is there anyone here who wishes to speak on the 2020 millage rate and property tax? Anyone here who wants to speak on the 2020 millage rate and property tax? Come on up. Come on up here and give us your name. And let me find the paper that you're supposed to sign. Here we go. Your name and your address.
My name's Donald Roberts, and I live up there on 136. Been there for forever. Moved away after college. Well, whenever I went to college, I moved away about 10 or 12 years, moved out west of Montana. It's beautiful out there. It reminds me of what Dawson County used to be. Why can't we figure out some sort of way to, like the lady said, tax up there around 53, or you know, all these imported bastards from Atlanta and Forsyth County that are moving in instead of the people that have been here? Is that not an option? Some sort of an impact fee for them? Anybody that wants to come in and build some new properties, or if they want to put up this neighborhood like the Avalon down there on the river, I mean, they're going to ruin that place. That's one of the most beautiful places around, and they're going to ruin it.
We do have an impact.
We do.
I'll answer that question.
Okay.
We do have an impact.
What's it, how much is it?
What percent?
I'm not sure exactly. Jameson, can you explain that a little bit?
Absolutely. Our impact fee is really based on the structure and how many square footage it is, and it's based on each individual type of dwelling.
Okay.
But there's also commercial impact fees as well. It's
Right.
on residential. That is imposed at the maximum amount that we can, 100%.
Okay.
But the commercial is not, it's 25% now, 25%. So we do have impact fees, because I hear what you're saying.
And I'll echo that, and to one of your points is, can we tax the people coming up from Atlanta? I think that and Chairman Thurman will have the exact number, I don't have it off my head, but the amount of sales tax revenue that's generated is equal to 5 mills, I believe, which is essentially, what that does is those people that do come up from Atlanta, they spend their money at the outlet mall, they go back home, so we utilize their money, to your exact point, is we gain money from them when they spend their money here, and they're not a resident, and so
Right.
that offsets. If we didn't have that, then if you wanted the same level of services, then the property tax essentially could be quite a bit higher. And we're lucky that we do. Exactly your point is we do have a mechanism that does, collect money for those people that do come up here and spend the day and go back home. So
Right, yeah, I wasn't referring to that specifically. I was referring to the people that come up from Atlanta and don't leave,
yeah.
But that's what the impact fee,
Right.
are you saying if they build a house?
Right, yes,
Build a
ma'am.
residence? Well,
Yes,
see, they do have to pay an impact fee.
Can we bump that up?
Well, they said
You know,
100%.
Why is it that, I guess it just doesn't make sense to me why we can pay more, I guess, but they don't, they're maxed out. Why can't we be maxed out too?
I'm not sure I follow.
You don't want to be maxed out.
Well, I'm saying, like, why can't we draw the line where we're at and then not go any further? Therefore, if we drew the line where we're at, then we are maxed out. So,
What line are you talking about drawing? You're gonna have to help me.
so we're at a certain percentage right now that we're paying. Why can't that be the top amount, especially for people that have been in Dawson County for
Well,
Are you talking about property taxes
ma'am.
now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
It's-
oh, yeah.
And the short answer to that, I mean, essentially your value has risen on your house or your land or whatever, and that's a function of the property tax. The property tax is the value of it, which the assessor sets, and then the millage rate. So
That's called gentrification, isn't it? Where people say that there's, your property's valued at more than it actually is, and therefore you eventually get taxed so much to where you can't afford to live there.
you have that appeals process, and I'm not here to debate you. You do have the appeals process if you feel like, and anybody has that ability. So I'd encourage you to go through that process if you feel like your value is way out of line, for sure.
All right.
And you're taxed on the 40% assessed amount. You're not taxed on that number at the top. They take 40% of that, and that's what you're taxed on. I mean, I still know it's a lot,
Right, yeah.
but, and as we've talked before, a lot, if you just read your tax bill, and you're smart, you're intelligent, I know that, you can see how much the school gets. It's 60-something% compared to what the county gets.
Right.
So, I
Point you're
hear
taking.
you.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
All right.
And listen, and call any of us, if you have more questions or something goes on and you don't like, we're accessible, you call us and we'll talk about it. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else here? Come on up. Give us your name and your address. You have 5 minutes.
I'm Johnny Sheffield. I live off of 136.
Jim Thurman, can you get the
Let
microphone?
me take this off.
No, you're fine, we're just trying to.
That's okay.
Move the microphone so they can hear you.
I just wanted to add on to something that he said. Yes, I've had the exemptions, but my property tax went back up. I no longer have the complete exemption anymore because they valued my house for more. I understand this. When we first brought the outlet mall in, or 400, we were told when that outlet mall come in, our property tax won't go up. It will come down. It will save you money if you vote this in. Well, we did. And I've never seen my property tax go down. The county nor the schools. And to me, if you want to catch everybody, take the sales tax up. Leave us like we are. That's my suggestion. And I know y'all try to do the best you can, but
We
like I
do.
said, I'd rather pay my sales tax and get everybody that comes into the county than see my land where I can't afford it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else here to speak on the millage rate, property tax? Come on up. Give us your name and your address.
Turn the mic.
You have 5 minutes.
I'm not hard to hear. My name is Kathy Waddell. I've fed every one of you, I do believe, at some point.
You have me, I'll admit.
Nice to see you all. I've missed you. I've lived here 21 years. I bought a piece of property as a single mom with 2 babies. And it was more than, my mother gave it to me. It was more than I could afford to pay property taxes on. But I've struggled over the years, and I've earned a living, and I've paid those property taxes. When 2008 came and our property taxes dropped because our
Economy.
economy tanked, I lost what I was going to use as my children's equity for their college educations. My home was valued at less than 1/3 of what it is now. Now, I get it, my property taxes have gone up because my property is worth more now. I haven't put a new doorknob in my house in that 21 years. I have done nothing on my property besides live on it in 21 years. Now, to pay more property tax for something I've done nothing with, I don't have kids to educate now. They've already done their own thing and got through because I couldn't pay for it for them. So now, I would hope that you would understand that we're all struggling. We're all still living in the same houses. And I know things need to be paid for, but I can't go out and get more money to pay more taxes any more than you can go out and ask us to pay for more money to get more services. I know it's a conundrum. I know it's hard, and you guys are doing the best you can. But please understand that the majority here cannot afford an increase. Thanks.
Can I ask you a question? How much property do you own?
18 acres,
Okay, have you got it signed up under conservation?
10 acres.
Okay, that's smart, that's smart.
Yeah, and I've got Social Security, so I'll start getting that next year. I missed it by
Don't-
1 week
don't
this
give
year.
them-
I didn't learn, somebody didn't tell me. They didn't let me in on the secret. But, yeah, I
Okay.
do exemptions that I can do. I am still speaking for myself, but I'm also speaking for a lot of parents that I know, friends that I know, that have the same situation.
And you realize that we don't set the assessment on your house.
I
Do
do
you
realize,
that?
I do realize,
Okay.
but the
Okay.
taxes are based on that assessment, so.
but we didn't set that value.
Right.
We didn't set
The
that
millage.
value on that. There's just a lot of confusion about this.
Right.
And like I said, when things go up, we're all affected as well. So, I hear you, and I appreciate the comments.
Yep, that's all it was. Thank you.
There you go.
Now y'all know where I live, so you can come see me.
Anyone else here to speak on the 2020 millage rate and property tax? Come on up, sir. Give us your name and your address.
Get that microphone.
You have 5 minutes.
Mike?
Is it possible for an hour to speak just 5 minutes? While I'm writing this, I do want to thank you guys for the job that you do. We live in the best county in the state of Georgia.
Amen.
And my name is Scott Allen, if anyone doesn't know who I am. I kind of took that for granted for just a second there. Addressing the millage rate, I imagine we're going to do these on a line item order. I really enjoyed what you guys have been sharing, especially what you mentioned about trying to hold a flat budget or even decrease. We as a country, a state, a county, we face a really tough time because of COVID. And that's really changed how we all have to approach everything. And the recovery of it is a lot of what I focus on as a local businessman. And I pay a lot of taxes. Back when Hubert was the tax commissioner, I came in and Paige Chester looked at my tax receipts, looked up and said, "Oh my gosh, you pay a lot of taxes." And so that kind of scared me a little bit. So I'm used to it. We've learned more about it today. Chris called me earlier, had a conversation. I appreciate you taking that time. And I understand that this millage rate thing is dictated by the state. And I'd like for, the rest of the,
40% value.
I'm sorry?
40% assessed value. Yeah.
That's correct. And so it's something you have to face, you have to deal with on a regular basis. It's not like that our commission came up today and said, "Hey, we're going to deal with it this year," you have control of it. It's something you have to deal with. Well, in part of recovery, education is one of the most important things that you have to protect. And due to the political nature of this year, we just recently got a good view of what you're spending to do that. And I want to say thank you. You have spent some money to attract some talent and make us competitive with the surrounding counties. And I want to thank you for that. And as you try to hold that flat budget, because you hadn't had an adequate time to digest a strange year. This is not like last year. You can't use last year's numbers in the year before and 10 years ago. I can't do that in business. We're having to try to figure it out. I would hope that if you need time, you would appeal to the governor. He's declared a state of emergency. And that state of emergency should apply to some of these things, to grant you some time if you need it, to make some good decisions. We're a small county. I hope that you'll hold that millage rate as low as possible, especially if you don't have clear answers on where we need to be. But the one thing I wanted to make clear at this level tonight was thank you. Thank you for creating an environment that's going to invest in our recovery.
Thank you for your words.
Anyone else here to speak on the 2020 millage rate and property tax? Anyone else? Come on up. Give us your name and your address.
So a mistake was made with the press release that was published in the Dawson County News, and I just wanted to address that. The press release, and I'll just read part of it. This is a quote. The FY 2021 budget tentatively adopted by the Dawson County Board of Commissioners requires a millage rate higher than the rollback millage rate to be able to maintain and continue to provide much-needed services to the citizens of the county. When I read that, it sounded like the budget was tentatively adopted, and I wondered, okay, where's this money going to go that we need from the proposed tax increase? So curious about that, I requested that budget and found out that it does not exist. In addition to that, I was told, and this is a quote from the email, the language that was used in the press release is the language the Department of Revenue says the county should use, end of the quote. However, that's not true either. The 2020 Compliance Guide for Advertising Digest History and Public Hearings on Increase in Property Tax provides instructions on the press release requirements on page 15, as well as a sample press release on page 20, and those are the documents that I gave you. The guide makes it very clear that the sample is merely an example and that each authority should include the specific circumstances that triggered the need for increase in taxes. Transparency and open, honest communication matters. I don't know how this happened or why it happened. I would like to believe it's an honest mistake. Regardless, accountability is in order, and a correction and an apology should be issued to the citizens of Dawson County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else here to speak on the 2020 millage rate and property tax? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. The third hearing will be held at 4 p.m. on August the 20th, 2020. Next public hearing we have is creation of a residential agriculture 1.5 corrective zoning district. Land use resolution update. Second of two hearings. The first hearing was held at the Dawson County Planning Commission meeting on July the 21st, 2020. James.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, this is the second hearing for the RAC Residential Agricultural Corrective District that I believe we've all talked about over the last couple of months several times. We've come to this conclusion because there were several properties that were identified as caught in the net of being less than 5 acres and did not have a recorded plat with the clerk of courts. This was a decision that we came to collectively as to create the residential agricultural classification after taking several options into consideration. I think I want to start by saying that this is a new residential zoning classification, that we're not rezoning anyone's property, but merely giving them the ability to rezone to this classification in order for them to record a plat so they can get a building permit to build on their property. It does not affect anyone that's currently in residential agriculture unless they have the ability to rezone to this classification, which I think I just went through those requirements.
The ability or the desire.
Thank you, Commissioner Gaines. That's exactly correct. Upon having several conversations with concerned citizens and as well as talking to the attorneys to help me to make sure that I go through all the proper legal channels, some suggestions were made that I'd like to present to you now based on the public hearing that we had at the Planning Commission, as well as some other conversations that I had with some citizens locally. They asked that I remove the raising and caring for livestock out of the prohibited uses and put them into the allowable uses under the C1 description. Also, I would request at this time we remove under D3 of that section to include but not limited to, that was meant to open up the discussion and have different options. Nothing was really presented there, so if we remove that portion of that language, we would, I would be ready to move. And I also want to say one other thing, is we did present this collectively to the Planning Commission. So we talked about a lot of different things and a lot of different aspects. But I like the chairman's suggestion in splitting these out into 3 different individual hearings. With it being a collective document that we were trying to present, I didn't go through and renumber these sections because all the pages will change, all the section numbers will change, but the content that that the commission wishes to vote on would remain the same. I'll open this up to any questions.
So again, for communication is important. What's been presented is an option to solve an issue that has been created over the last 20 years since zoning has been in place in Dawson County. There's been some, my understanding, some ambiguity from past administrations and past directors that it allowed somebody to build a house in less than 5 acres when they were in a RA zoning. So the goal of this is singular in the fact that we're trying to, those people that have already built a house or already bought the land in order to build a house on less than 5 acres, this gives them a path to be able to complete that in an RA zoning. And from open dialogue, what we're requesting or the potential is to not limit the livestock component in it. And that's somewhat of an update that we're hearing tonight. But give me your background on how we put that in there to begin with, the livestock piece. Because it's somewhat unique to, it's very unique to RA. So tell me why you did that. Or why the department did that?
So the way our land use resolution reads is that RA is the only classification where you can raise livestock. Now, we don't have a clear definition as to what that means, but I can tell you as the chief marshal, we kind of look at that as raising animals for profit, more or less. That's how we've been treated. We allow, as far as like chickens are concerned, I mean, we have every zoning classification we have allows for, a chicken coop, as long as you're keeping them on your property, right? Because that's one of the requirements for everything under our animal control ordinance. But the reason we put that in there to begin with was basically because in every zoning category that's less than 5 acres, we have restricted that at some point. So it was a logical, when we created it, it was a logical way to actually just kind of go about and say that this is kind of fits in with everything else. Did I answer your question?
It does. So, I mean, it sounds like what I'm hearing is the thought process is we're trying to make it mimic more residential zonings that we have, because the thought process is in residential, you wouldn't want a hog lot in a subdivision or in a higher density area. The idea of removing this language would be because the majority of these lots are going to be in an RA, an agriculture area to begin with. So my perception is it's more of an agriculture lot than it is a residential lot. And I agree 100% with the option of removing that language.
Other questions for Jameson? We're open to hearing.
No, I mean, I just want to echo a little bit of Commissioner Gaines. I mean, this thing started off and it was people that owned property and some of them had owned it for years, lots, and was getting ready to retire and build a house or give their kids a piece to build their house. Was never told that by the real estate or the person selling the land they couldn't build a house. I mean, we went from 1,300 parcels down to 90-something, down to about 50-something. I mean, I just want to commend your staff and Billy's work on researching all these parcels. But where the majority of them are, we went over this at several meetings, The house right next to it is on an acre and a half. And right down the street's a subdivision. So I just, it's good work on bringing this to us.
Other comments, questions? James? Thank you, sir. We'll comment that ask the board to bring this back up after hearing from several citizens, as well as going and doing some research on my own. And as was mentioned there is 1,300 and something parcels in the county that are less than 5 acres that are currently zoned RA. And no fault of Jameson or the current staff, but for 20 years, it had been done a different way. So these people got caught in the net, as I labeled it when we first started bringing this back up. So this is an action to allow those people who have bought land with no bad intention at all, but just in buying land, wanting to live here with us and be a part of this community, and so this will help correct that. And I also agree with Commissioner Gaines in reference to taking out the prohibiting of livestock. It's RA property. Somebody wants a cow that they're going to raise to eat, or a pig that they're going to raise to eat, and they have the ability and the place to keep that on their, 2 acre, 3 acre, 4 acre, whatever it is in that RAC district, they should be allowed to do that. And so I will agree that that's a piece that I would like to see removed as well. That's part of the ordinance that's been presented tonight. As I said a while ago, I'll open this hearing on the creation of the Residential Agriculture 1.5 Corrective Zoning District. And we've had some email responses as well from citizens in reference to this public hearing as well. And I will read those, and then, as I did before, I will allow those that are here to speak in reference to this RAC district to come up and speak as well. First one is from Miss Madonna Anderson. Hello, Dawson County is a rural county. We enjoy our freedom. In fact, people move up here to enjoy that freedom. Many people are self-sustaining and have yard chickens, goats, a cow, a pig for food and income. If we wanted restrictions, we would live in a subdivision and follow HOA rules. Children have farm animals as pets. Are you going to tell a small child that they have to get rid of their goats and chickens? The mere idea of this zoning is ridiculous. Please vote no.
But now this is not going to apply to people who've already,
Already there?
yeah,
Yes.
so that's a
And then-
moot point.
Well,
Excuse me.
it will apply to those people who are that are in the net, because they,
Yeah,
in the
she's
zoning,
not in the
what we
net.
presented is they wouldn't be able to have a livestock, but
Well, that's where the communication is critical.
Yeah.
And there's been miscommunication that has been about that this restriction was applicable to all RA,
which is not
period.
true.
Right.
And that, number one, that was never the intention, that's never been the idea behind it. It was only applicable the way it was presented under this corrective zoning that we may or may not have a maximum of roughly 50 people that are going to apply for in order to build a house on less than 5 acres. And since then, per our discussion tonight, even that's been taken off the table.
That's right.
Not taken off the table, but the option.
Second comment we received by email from Miss Lori Finch. Leave the RA zone alone. Save your limitations for subdivisions and residential zones. I moved to this rural area over 30 years ago. I enjoy my land and the freedom of strict government hassle. I bought and paid for it. I pay taxes on it. There is no reason you should limit within good reason why I can't use it as rural land has been used for centuries. I have 4.5 acres. Your current limitations of not being able to add a small cabin because my main driveway does not access the back of my property are nonsensical. You don't allow tiny houses or manufactured homes which are much more cost-efficient, especially for older adults like me, and would bring more revenue to the county. When I did try to sell my house and land a few years back, most people wanted to know if they could have horses, goats, pigs, etc. At that time, they could. You would hurt the resale value of my land. Now you want to take away my choice to have animals. You are attempting to punish those in rural areas with 5 acres or under. Are you trying to set in motion all these restrictions in hopes of creating more subdivisions? I hope not. Dawson County used to be a fantastic place to live, but not now. You are attempting to change the rural area to emulate Cumming and other metro cities. I did not move all the way out here to be railroaded and have my land choices squashed by a greedy government. Stay out of the rural areas with all your restrictions. Furthermore, you have wasted our taxpayer money on things like the intersection at Georgia 400 and Highway 53. You spent the money to add 2 right turn lanes, then because people couldn't follow a simple road sign, you shut down one of the lanes. What a waste of taxpayer money. All these roundabouts, people are too selfish to use them as intended. Another unnecessary expense. Leave the RA landowners be. You are killing the very ambience, peace, freedom, and joy that brought me and many others to the RA areas of the county in the first place. To get away from big government and restrictions. You put enough ludicrous restrictions on us. It's our land and we pay taxes on it, which are also too high as well. I need to add to the zoning comment. If the commission is going to restrict us, at least grandfather those of us in RA zone who have owned property for 30 years. That's the comments from Miss Lori Finch. The last comment received by email in reference to this public hearing was from Joanne Sheridan. I moved here because I wanted to get away from the crowds and traffic. I don't like Alpharetta. People don't make zoning changes that would bring in another Avalon Center. You have brought in enough shopping centers. Leave the agricultural zoning alone as well. We need them in our county. Having a chicken run across the road makes life fun. I was never notified about the zoning changes in my neighborhood. How do I make sure that I know about future changes? Those are the comments that we received via email in the times that we're in, so that people didn't feel comfortable actually coming to the meeting. Now, is there anyone here who wishes to speak on the creation of residential agriculture 1.5 corrective zoning district? Anyone here to speak? Come on up. Give us your name and your address. Guess we want to do this on a different page. And you will have 5 minutes.
This country is going to view and be a part of the most disastrous thing ever hit this country. I hope what you're doing here is not etched in stone forever, because the only thing that separates a human being from an animal is the pride, and a hungry human being has no pride. So be careful when you get these restrictions on all these people when they get hungry. I won't go into details and tell you about my grandfather, whom I never knew, but I got it all from my dad. Okay? He fed a lot of people during the Depression. So just don't put it in stone and leave something for those coming behind you, because you're not going to be in those chairs forever. I promise you that. Okay? Because hard times are coming.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak on the creation of residential agriculture 1.5 corrective zoning district? Come on up. Give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
My name is Tracy Hensley, and I've been to several of these meetings now. Really and truly, all I want to do is say thank you to Chairman Thurman, Commissioner Gaines, Commissioner Satterfield for trying to get this passed for us. All we're doing is trying to give our daughter 2 acres to build a house on, with the same rights that your son got for his 2 acres. If he gets to raise a chicken, then so should she. I really didn't even think, I really didn't think anything about the animal thing, because I thought, well, that's just not right. But y'all settled that. It's all good. But I wanted to say thank you. I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Now, will she have to apply for rezoning?
That was the next, that was actually a question. Is there
Okay.
any way we can't speed that up? In other words, we've been here for 2 months, 2, 3 months,
It seems like 2 years
It
to
seems like
me.
forever, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So, and now they're telling me that I've got to go through zoning, which is another 2 or 3 weeks, and then I got to wait 10 days after. Is there no way that we can say, okay, y'all are going to let us do, if you're going to let us do this, why can't we get our permit?
My answers are still procedures.
I can tell you that there is a state law, the zoning procedures law requires a public hearing on every zoning decision with sufficient advertising beforehand. It's dictated by the state law.
Okay.
The process that we would have to go through.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
I think, did we allow, no, at one point you talked about preemptively allowing paperwork to be submitted, so we. The
process started.
The process started with the understanding it could or could not be passed. So we did attempt to speed the process up as much as we legally
Yeah,
could.
I've actually filed all my papers.
Okay. So
I'm
you
waiting
are,
for this.
you are sped up. I know you want it as fast
Yeah,
as possible.
I mean, you got the banks saying you're only good for a year, so.
Yeah, sure.
And prices are not going down, in case y'all haven't noticed, so this is not right, but thank y'all.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak on the creation of residential agriculture 1.5 corrective zoning district? Anyone else? Come on up, ma'am. Give us your name and your address. You will have 5 minutes.
My name is Beth Martin. I'm just curious, does this just affect those 1,300 people, or what Jameson was talking about at the beginning, or can everybody use this to carve up their land? So if you've got 5 acres, then you've got somebody next to you that's divvied everything up.
Has to already be deeded, is
Recorded
plat.
This is
Okay.
a corrective
Right.
action.
And this
So,
is,
because it was very confusing at the
Yes.
planning and zoning
Yeah.
meeting, because toward the end, it sounded like they decided that it was 1.5 acres that.
Well, they-
And I don't remember, the only person I heard talking about that was one of the planning and zoning guys. I don't remember anybody out here talking about it. So it got really confusing as to what was all going on.
I think when the topic first came up, and this was several months ago, it was, how do we approach it, and do we approach it as, do we allow everybody to do the 5 acres, or do we take a surgical approach and look at those that have already been deeded? That to say, I still think that, we've had debates up here in prior meetings on what does that look like. Somebody made the comment the other day that we're all about just getting rid of agriculture, so we get rid of deductions, or what do you call them, exemptions. And that's the furthest thing from, I mean, I don't think, I know this lady right here will fight tooth and nail for any inch of agriculture, and I don't think that's intentional. So they were, I know what you're saying, there were 2, and I think the planning board got confused because there were 2 different issues.
Yeah,
And the
everything
one-
kind of ran all together.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully we've
the
clarified
commercial,
that
I wasn't
tonight.
even expecting, because I didn't even see that in any of the
Right.
paperwork that I looked at earlier, so.
Yeah, it's just those in that already meet that definition. We call it in the net, but that meet that legal definition and already have that plat recorded, and so
Okay,
it's
so you
just
can't-
for those.
Okay.
And then when everybody has done this, whoever wants to apply for rezoning,
Then it's over.
then it goes back to the 5 acres.
Okay.
And there's only about 50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like
Okay, well, I heard a whole
54.
bunch of numbers, and like I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah, I know.
it just wasn't very clear when
I understand.
I heard
Oh,
of
yeah.
planning a zoning meeting, and then I left with my head spinning, and
And we
Now I'm
want
here.
it to be clear because I had said before, people's mantra now is gonna be, I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know.
Yeah.
We're trying to put a stop to that.
Ambiguity.
And somebody in one of those emails said, you know, well, how can we get future communications? You know, we wonder about that too. And, you know, we have public hearings but a lot of times people don't come and then they don't say anything till something lands on their doorstep.
well, I'm lucky and Thursday's my day off, so I'm able to attend these, but I work retail, otherwise I might not be able to. And a
But
lot
I
of
mean,
people are in
you
the same boat as
listen,
me.
you can call me, you can email, you can do anything. I'm gonna pay just as much attention to that as if you're standing there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Beth. And I'll echo that comment about accessibility, and I said this before, is technology has allowed us, and I remember being a kid having to wait through that commercial to watch the TV show I wanted to watch, and now with this being recorded, you can digest it whenever you want to digest it. And that's a big step in communication that we've been able to do.
Anyone else here to speak on the creation of residential agriculture 1.5 corrective zoning? Here's your name and your address.
Do I need to sign again, or just? Don't you love the government?
You talk as much
That's
as
a
your,
government
you talk
pen.
as much as your preacher brother.
It's a government pen though, so at least it's not mine, it's not my ink. So I understand that it's undeeded property, is that correct? That's the issue, or just unplatted? Unplatted?
Recorded plat.
Some of it's been sold and it's got plats on it.
Well, I got deed.
They got deeds on it.
But
It's
not.
deed, but doesn't have a
never
plat,
recorded.
is that correct?
Can't
Never-
get a plat because, can't record their plat because of the old zoning was 5 acres.
Okay.
So they're unable, because that plat has to be approved through the planning department.
Okay.
before they do it.
The reason I stepped up with this one, it really brought up a good point about this new technology that we really appreciate, by the way.
That was grant money, by the way.
That was grant money, that was tax money, that's what you mean. It was our tax dollars at work. There you go. I believe it's called stimulus package, was it? You know, the planning commission board falls under you guys, and you brought that up a while ago, it was discussed in the planning board. You know, this is not the time in America to talk about restrictions, by the way, on people. If you're gonna bring up restrictions, you know, every one of y'all ran as Republicans, you need to resign and go. And so it's not the time for restriction comments, but it is a time also to talk about culture. And this technology allowed us to witness last week a planning commission in disarray. And Jameson trying to present a point of argument for you guys and for the commission that came very close to looking like a hostile environment for him, a hostile work environment. And this is a really good guy, super intelligent. We love the planning department. It's a great place for planning to go to. Makes it very friendly. But I'd like for y'all to think about that culture just a little bit and think about how to address it. This was some really good men serving in those places. And it did not leave the taste that our community looks like in the overall observance of it. And I'd appreciate it if y'all spend some time on that.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else here to speak on the creation of the residential agriculture 1.5 corrective zoning district? Come on up, sir. You have to have a plat before you get a building permit. But you've got a deed
I've got a deed, but I can't record the plat.
until you get
Right,
it. That's right.
right.
You're right. Give us your name and your address. You have copy?
Thank you, Board of Commissioners, for providing the opportunity to allow the citizens to discuss the public feedback on this change and others. My name is Matt Raymond. My family owns a combined total of 170 acres zoned as agricultural in Dawson. First of all, I want to clarify that none of your proposed changes affect me or my family directly immediately. I'm here stating my opposition to the proposed change because I believe it will have a detrimental effect on the rural neighborhoods of Dawson County, as well as potentially my children and future grandchildren. I'm very concerned that this proposed RA correction goes against one of the first stated purposes of the Dawson County Land Use Resolution. Section 101, the purpose of the county's resolution stated that the intent is, quote, to prevent arbitrary or unreasonable land use and districting decisions. This residential active agricultural correction places unnecessary restrictions on an arbitrary number of acres for a very limited number of homeowners. I'm opposed to this proposed RAC because it's an after-the-fact change to an existing zoning designation. The RAC explicitly states that they cannot request to be a part of this. There's no new parcels created in that type of zoning, and it retroactively changes existing parcel usage. It's the very definition of ex post facto. I'm opposed to this proposed RAC because the designation eliminates the allowed usage for crop production, and I wrote animal husbandry, but if y'all are going to remove that, then I'll strike that here. But your proposed land uses have things like animal forestry, hunting, horse riding stables, wildlife preserve, a winery. All those things would be eliminated if it was less than 5 acres on those lots. If you do remove that option, the restriction for the animal production, then these same homeowners would be able to continue on with their small family farms, raise pigs, cows, chickens. So I'm of the opinion proposed update is overly restrictive. It unfairly targets a select number of properties with an arbitrary acreage of those 5 acres. And I think it is unreasonable and is a restricted, overly restrictive use of the land use resolution. I want to close with something that I heard earlier today. One of the board members, no one is making any more land. Thank you. Questions, corrections?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, maybe, and I don't know if he has been to our meetings, but if you could explain, do you know the history of this and why this came up?
Yes.
Oh, so you don't need it, okay.
To the net.
Anyone else here speak on the creation of the residential agriculture 1.5 corrective zoning district? Anyone else? Any?
I have a question. So it's a viewpoint.
Come on up here. Come on up.
We won't bite, we
Give us
won't
your-
bite, I promise.
Give us your name and address right here.
Hey, my name is Dirk Dial. I live on Grizzle Farm Road in Dawsonville, been there for over 10 years. We have about 4.5 acres, and we have 2 horses on that. We also had, my grandson had a pony. The pony passed away recently, but the reason I'm here is because we heard that we were no longer going to be allowed to have livestock on our property. That's the whole reason why I'm here. So I think that is not correct, but that's what's going around right now, and that's why we're here. And I'm glad to hear that is not the case, and I think we've addressed all that. So if that were to ever come to you guys again, I would hope that you commissioners would get that word out and let the people vote on something like that, because there are certain things like telling me whether I can buy my grandson a pony or not and have it on my 4.5 acres. I'm an Army veteran. I'm not going to put up with that crap. It's going to be a problem. You're not going to be my friend anymore. We're going to be enemies at that point. So let the people vote. If that were ever to come a situation that needed to be voted on, that I think y'all should let the people in the county decide that before you start taking away our right, whether we can own a pony or a goat or whatever. But I understand that's a viewpoint at this point, but I just want you to know that that's what's flying around right now.
I didn't even know, I couldn't understand why people were so upset. And they spent all this time getting all steamed up over something that wasn't even
Yeah, the
on
way
the
it was
table.
presented to me was that
Well, call
you've got
someone.
you've got two horses, you're not legally gonna be able to allow that, have those horses because you have less than 5 acres.
Well,
That's-
somebody
that's what's
told
going
you
around,
something
so,
wrong.
Yeah, so.
So call us or, call,
We
call-
did. My wife called.
Yeah.
But I still just wanted to get clarification because, you just never know, unless you're,
Well,
it's
they
all
go-
kind of confusing.
They get on
So,
Facebook and go crazy.
well, you can't believe everything on Facebook, that's for sure, too.
Well, I
But,
know it, but it got everybody all steamed up and riled up
Yeah.
about it. It's something that wasn't
I don't even do
true.
Facebook, so you're talking to the wrong
Well,
person.
people send it
but,
to me, I don't
but, yeah.
either, I don't wanna know, but I mean, it gets some pretty ugly stuff out there, and it's wrong. It's not the truth.
It is, and Commissioner Gaines did a good job clarifying some other stuff, and y'all are doing great. Just, if that were to ever come, do me and everybody else in the county a favor, let us vote on it. Don't decide what we can have for us. We can decide on our own what we can have on
I can tell you from this seat, private property rights are critical that we keep them in place and that we understand what rights that we are given and that we don't stand in the way of that.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Can you explain about the 5 acres you were talking about earlier? Is it from the beginning, how it all started?
Was it about, when Jameson was explaining it, see, there was something confusing, yeah, but it was confusing.
So
In
when
the ordinances.
zoning started in 1997,
Or
or
86.
many years ago,
86.
the language, the way it's written, and it all falls back to the overlying topic that we're talking about is communication and how we verbally communicate and written communication. Within that language that it's written in the zoning laws, there is some reference to 1.5 acres being a requirement, and that is due to health department regulations on how big a lot you have to have for your septic
Or
tanks and your
environmental
wells and septic tanks and things like that. So over the last 20 some odd years, there's been different interpretations of that zoning requirement, or that zoning law, that stipulation. So it's been allowed. Some people have been allowed to do it. There's existing units right now that are on NRA on less than 2 acres, and really what has happened is there was somebody, I think, that originally, and I forgot where it got started, but there was somebody that came in and said, look, I bought 2 acres from a man, and I gave $25,000 an acre, $50,000 for 2 acres in the RA zoning. Their anticipation was the guy next door to him on the left had a house on less than 2 acres. The guy next door to him on the right had a house on less than 2 acres. So there's a track record that it had been allowed, and with their thought, with them buying that 2 acres, they essentially bought 2 acres. If we just strictly legally speaking, when Jameson was presented with, I need to get my building permit, Jameson looks at it as a department head and says, I want to make sure we're doing this right. And Jameson has done a phenomenal job with making sure we're doing things right. And so at that point, legal got involved and said, if we're reading this, you're not able to do that, even though we had plenty of examples throughout the community that had already done that. And so the man that just spent $50,000 on 2 acres that he couldn't build a house on, you can do some things, agriculture, RA zoning with 2 acres, but not a whole lot. And so ultimately, it's worthless. And so you can't sell it. I mean, it become nowhere near the valuation that he paid for it. And the more we dug into it, and then the Hensleys came forward and we're talking about their story of, wanting to keep family together. And we see a lot of this, we'll call it legacy lots, or growing old on your own property and having people that come in and help take care of you and things like that. And there was examples of, where people had bought these lots already and were committed to building a house on them. And there's plenty of examples where it already existed. We were very careful in what we were talking about a minute ago. Somebody brought up the ambiguity of, are we taking all 5 acre agriculture and just making it 1.5? we didn't want to take it to that extreme because we care and protect about the rural nature of Dawson County. But we also realized that there's people that are caught in this proverbial net. And so we come up with a compromise. And the compromise is, let's figure out a way to fix those issues that are existing, not due to their own fault, because they read the same thing that the next guy read, and it alluded to 1.5 acres, and previous planning directors and boards had given them the ability to do it. So the way to clear it up was this solution without preventing it from taking a man with 100 acres in agriculture and splitting it up 50 times, because that's not the goal of the whole process. It was to clear up an issue that's been created over many years, well before any of this board, and well before Jameson. If that answers your question.
And it will go back, will not go back. The interpretation will be, you have to have 5 acres in an RA zoning to build a house.
Well, that's what it
Does
is
that
now.
answer your- I know, I didn't say go back, I took that out. Is that what you were asking? I'm kind of.
My dad's a Baptist preacher, so I get on a long-winded.
But is that
Probably
what,
could have answered it in 3 words, but.
is that what you were asking?
Okay.
Dr. Allen's he's going to want me to pass an offering plate here in a minute.
Anyone else here to speak on the creation of residential agriculture 1.5 corrected zoning district? Come up, give us your name, your address. You got 5 minutes, sir.
My name is Chris Henry.
Turn that mic around.
I appreciate what everybody's done, and I know it seems like I've attacked you because you admitted that your son did this. I guess I'm just trying to get what I want. I wasn't doing it on purpose.
Oh, I don't.
I'm a builder, and I want to say this for future, for me, y'all, county, whatever. We're pretty much told if the health department says we can do it, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's not right.
I
I mean,
know.
I've got bit by that in this deal. But I would feel that if he would say to the health department, you can't give a septic tank permit or don't tell anybody we can get one until they bring you an approved plat. And I think that would help the county not get into this net situation again, because you get misinterpreted. Because when I went to them, because like you say, the neighbor next door had it on an acre and a half, I went to the health department and my lot got approved and I was good. So I really been in the building business, thought I was good.
Yes, I
And reading the county stuff online, it's a little bit deceiving. Maybe
Yes.
it's because I'm not as slick as I ought
No,
to be.
it
But
is.
it is deceiving, and I really think that needs to be changed. But I know he's got his hand full, and there's no 100% fix of any of this problem. There's always going to be something come up where somebody gets bit. But I think if you would go to the health department and say, hey, don't tell them that they can have that until they have an approved plat from us. And that's more work for me in my job.
Yes.
But I think in the long run, it could help the county not
Get in.
get into these situations. Thank
And
y'all.
listen, I didn't take
I know
any
you
of that
didn't.
personally.